Anders is what some may consider an overnight success in the world of broadcasting and commentary. As a complete newcomer, his beginnings were relatively humble. Given a chance by the renowned team NIP to run their stream, on the 17th of March 2013, he never looked back. I sat down with him for a few words about his profession. Thanks so much for sitting down with us and joining us for the interview, even though you're very far away. We'll see you soon. So how are you? How are things?
I'm doing pretty much all right. A lot of stuff coming up in Counter-Strike, and I still feel like I'm somewhat in the center of all of it. So, you know, I'm in a fortunate spot right now.
So yeah, I mean, I recently just saw you streaming, and you had like 16K viewers, a lot of viewership. Yeah. You're experiencing growth. So do you want to talk to us about, you know, what it's like running TV and how things are going right now?
Well, I think we're still sort of reaping the rewards a lot from DreamHack Winter. Brought in a lot of new viewers to Counter-Strike, a lot of new players as well, and we're sort of we pride ourselves as being like one of the most active CS:GO channels. So yeah, I think we've managed to snag a lot of those new viewers, and it's really working out great for us in that sense. 16,000, I think that's right today. So yeah, that was pretty exciting.
So being, you know, so much into commentary, it is your career now. What are the steps you take to improving? I mean, it's got to be something constant in your mind, right?
Yeah, I mean, all the time. And actually, one of the big problems, I think, is that casting ends up taking so much time that there's very little time to actually sit down and really try to improve. And also because improving is like one of the most, I would say boring, but it's one of the harder tasks to actually do, is to motivate yourself to sit down when nobody's listening and just like, you know, go through some sort of improvement. It takes a lot of time, and it's probably one of the things that I guess most casters are worst at, and I'm definitely in that flock as well. I should do it even more than I do. Definitely.
Did you have any, I don't know, revelations at any point when you're, you know, in your commentary career? Like you saw, let's say, maybe one of the kind of prominent commentary figures do something, and you're like, maybe I should try this, or anything like that?
I guess at some point I think I spoke to Red Eye a little bit, and he was telling me sometimes it's worth it to try and talk slower, even though you feel like you want to talk fast because there's some sort of action going on. But sometimes talking slower means maybe you'll miss calling out 1 or 2 kills, but overall it'll feel a little bit more consistent. So sure, I mean, I guess that really has helped me out. I really do sometimes try and just say, okay, I'll tone it down a notch or two, but then it will feel more real somehow. So that's one thing. I mean, apart from that, I don't know. I guess you can always find different areas of your casting that could improve a lot, and it doesn't have to be other casters. It could be listening to a song or a poem or a movie or whatever, and then just letting that influence you in some way, which is cool.
So it's actually quite interesting to get different commentators' kind of thoughts on basically what it means to be a commentator. Like when you sit down, you're doing a job.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what is the job you're doing? What are your priorities when you're there in front of an audience? What are you trying to achieve most?
Well, I think it's a really good idea thinking about it as a job, because it's so easy to say that it's just a hobby that you happen to get paid for. But if you do that, then I think it takes away some of the responsibility. I think if people choose to sit down for, I mean, tonight we cast it for maybe 5 hours. So, you know, if people want to put aside 5 hours to spend an evening with me, I do feel like I am responsible that people should have a good time and be entertained. So that's like, I think that's the primary thing. It's important to think of it as a job. And if people don't like the product that you're putting out there, then they will go somewhere else, and they should go somewhere else if they're not enjoying it. So, yeah, I think that's like the primary thing for me.
And as you're saying, you know, you use the word we there. Of course, you weren't casting alone, and I think this is quite an interesting point when it comes to Counter-Strike Global Offensive right now, because there aren't actually many duos. If we look at a lot of other esports games, duos seem to be this consistent thing, but in CS:GO, it's not like that at the moment. And personally, I think it's a loss. I mean, what are your opinions? What have you gotten out of being a part of the duo with Semler, and what do you think about that in the scene right now?
Well, hey, what happened between Semler and I was just kind of an accidental thing. We just happened to click really well socially, and then it's sort of being brought over into the cast. I think Semler's a lot more energetic and maybe has an easier time of letting go of the game and just sometimes having fun with the actual situations that occur. So I feel like I should learn a lot from that, because sometimes I do tend to get a little bit bogged down in the game, and I just, you know, I want to talk about each individual round, and it's important to let go and laugh at something funny that happens and so on. So I feel like we're good in that sense.
So, what are your future aims then, and goals? What is it looking like? What is the future for Anders?
Yeah, that's a really big question. I actually don't know. It's difficult because I do have a lot of people that would like to work with me in the future. I think almost on a weekly basis I'm getting contacted by a new organization that has some sort of plan of starting something in Counter-Strike, and they want to know if I'm available at some certain date or if I want to engage in some sort of more elaborate work scheme with them where we're doing flying me somewhere and doing something or other. And I've now reached the point where I have to turn people down and tell people I'm sorry, I can't do that. I'm already booked,
Right.
which is really weird and annoying as well. It's really, I hate doing it. I really do.
I guess that means you're doing something right then. It's got to feel good after a lot of hard work.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously it's a good problem to have. There's no doubt about it. But I guess I'm struggling. I'm like somewhere on the borderline where I'm very close to being able to take this into like a fully fledged professional thing. I think the numbers that we're bringing on the channel and the way things are going, we could now start to approach sponsors and just generally try and sell the audience that we have, which sounds like a really ugly thing, but if you think about it, that's really what you're doing when you have a stream. That we could try and go to other people and say, this is a really cool product. You want to be a part of it. But actually doing that is very difficult, more difficult than people think. So that's what we're struggling with a little bit.
Do you think there's anything that in particular is wrong with how things are going at the moment in the Counter-Strike Global Offensive scene when it comes to doing productions and just generally, sticking to this point of commentary and how things are running? Is there something you'd improve?
I think it's obvious that there's a lot of room for improvement in Counter-Strike casting right now. I think Semler and I can do a better job than we're doing, but I think more than anything else, there's a lot of room for other people to come in and cast the game. Most games, as you were talking about earlier, have duos and probably multiple duos where you can sit down and have. I mean, if you think about StarCraft, there's obviously Tasteless and Artosis, but then you have any number of other people, Mr. Bitter, Rotterdam, like you can just keep listing people for a long time, Kilaris and Apollo and all those people. And if we had the same in Counter-Strike, it obviously would make for a better experience because no matter what you do, you're never going to reach 100% of the audience. There's always going to be people who won't like me or won't like Semler or who won't like either of us. And those people, they kind of have nowhere else to go right now. And that kind of sucks a little bit. That shouldn't be like that. So that's definitely something that I think I hope will happen in the future as well. I mean, even though it's weird because I hope and I partly don't hope because obviously right now it's great for us that there's not that many other people around. But, for the sake of the game, it would be better if there were more people around.
So talking about the state of the game, there's been a lot of updates recently. And I mean, that's CSGO. It's had a lot of support and attention from Valve, which is great. How are things shaping up? What is the state of the game like right now? Are you happy with it? There's obviously been quite a huge update recently, was featuring a new weapon even.
Yeah, I actually really like the weapon, the CSET 75. I think it's a fun addition. It doesn't seem to be overpowered, but it seems to fulfill a role for somebody who might want to try and use it. But anyone can go on using the P250 still and probably have a better result in the long run. So that weapon I really like. The changes they made to the AUG and the SG 553, I mean, people were saying that the new AUG makes it look like it's Call of Duty. I personally don't care. Any change that doesn't affect competitive gameplay has almost no interest to me at all. If they made the auto shotgun have, explosive rounds in casual mode, I wouldn't care much. And as far as I can tell right now, the AUG and the SG550 have almost no influence on competitive gameplay. Whereas, before the patch, when they super buffed the AUG and made it the rate of fire really incredible, then I thought it was a problem. Now I just don't care so much anymore. So maybe that's a boring answer, but there it is. I care about the competitive side.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really important point. I think this is actually something of an interesting topic because a lot of times we've seen things crossing over into the competitive side, and there have been a lot of games that have suffered from the pay-to-win models and so on and so forth, where gameplay gets the short end of the stick at the end of the day. Yeah. But it is nice to see definitely that Valve are keeping things real with CS:GO so far. I have to ask you. Very recent news. This kind of came a bit of a shock to me. I don't know if it was as much of a shock to you as it was me, but what happened with LGB? Were you expecting the whole LGB situation with the addition of Twist and Sipe and the removal of Exim and Huetin right there?
No, actually, I definitely wasn't. To me, it felt like Exim and Huetin were a really good fit into the lineup. But Twist and Sipe are phenomenal players, and they're really good friends apparently. And Twist is one of the best riflers in Europe, and Sipe seems whenever he's playing with Twist like he's, they feel at home. So, and we just saw them play today, and they pretty much crushed the 3D Max lineup, which used to be the faculty lineup. So, they've definitely done something right. And I think when it comes to roster changes, I wanna believe the teams that make the changes because it's so hard for us on the outside to try and guess at why they make those changes. I mean, hopefully they're going to be a really strong team. I think they were already the biggest up and coming team in Europe, and they probably still are, maybe even more so now.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be
Yeah.
interesting to follow them now. I mean, if it wasn't already apparent that they were an interesting team, they definitely are more so now. And speaking of which, and what kind of storylines are you looking towards IEM Katowice for? Like, is there a team or that you're really expecting to do very well, or
Yeah.
what are your predictions like?
I'm fully expecting the NIP team to do extremely well. I feel like this is like the biggest, most upsetting situation right now for everyone watching it because nobody has any clue about where Titan and NIP are. Probably some of the biggest teams, and in many ways we don't really know where Fnatic are. And we can never really know where Fnatic are because their online performances, they are so drastically different from how they play on LAN. So, it doesn't even concern me when I see, Fnatic getting beat up by LDLC or some other team. I just think, well, fine. It's not going to be how they play on LAN. But Titan and IP, I wish we knew a little bit more about them during, January and February here in the new year. We've seen almost nothing from them. And I don't know. I think it's going to be a huge mystery, and it's going to be almost more fun. I mean, it's almost like the event is going to be more fun because now when we see them play, it's almost going to be the first time. I mean, both teams, I guess, are going to be playing in the upcoming DreamHack event this weekend, but I still feel like we're going to be a little bit in the dark about it.
All right. I mean, something else as a commentator, when it comes to being able to make predictions, I guess you get a sense for some of the trends and patterns with players and teams. Are you seeing any trends and patterns in the metagame right now that you think are particularly interesting or you think are a good point of discussion?
Oh, it's an interesting one. I think spotting those trends in the metagame is really, really hard, and it's one of the reasons why we sometimes have color casters on because they're way better at doing it than we ever could be. But I suppose one of the changes that we saw rather sort of more recently, especially with the ESCA land, because we saw a lot of the American teams play, is a pretty heavy use of Molotov grenades, or incendiary grenades if you're on the CT side, being used in. I won't say nobody really sort of invented anything we hadn't seen before, but they just seem to use it more frequently in the American scene. And I think some of the European teams, it rubbed off on them a little bit. They got shown what they probably already knew, but maybe had forgotten, that some of those Molotov grenades, they don't just have to be used to sort of prevent someone rushing in. You can also use them to maybe force out a player that's hiding in a corner somewhere. And yeah, I think Molotovs would be one of the points to highlight probably.
Okay, so conversely, I can ask you, instead of saying, what trends have you spotted, what trends would you like to see? Is there something, you're watching teams and you're like, God, why don't they just do more of this? Because sometimes when I'm casting Quake, I do think that I have those thoughts.
I guess this is really difficult because it might be easier for us to spot as casters than it is for the teams, and we might not even be completely right about it. But just today, for instance, when we were watching LDLC and Mystic play each other, what we saw is, every time the terrorist side we're on nuke, but it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter what map it is. It's just like a general observation. It feels like sometimes people, they go for very slow, very coordinated pushes, and then they don't work out for maybe 8 rounds in a row or 10 rounds in a row. And then for one round, that team decides, okay, let's just try and push somewhere really quickly, nothing pretty, but just a few flashes, and then we just rush into a bomb site. And then that works. And then right after it works, they go back to playing the same very slow style, and then they start losing again. And it feels like, come on, you just proved to everyone that that rush actually worked better. But it's not that simple, and that's like it would take a while probably to explain exactly how that works. Also because once you've done the rush, the team might expect you doing it the next round. But still, it's annoying to watch, and I wish sometimes we maybe could see, a little bit more crazy play maybe than considered play. Not worse play. I mean, playing crazy doesn't mean you're playing badly. It just means you're trying something else.
Right. So this will be the last question. And this is a nice one, I think. This could be maybe a look into the future, because maybe in the future we'll see Anders as, let's say, the coach of NIP, perhaps. Let's say, we're living in a future where you get these team houses and you can be a full-time coach. You've got 5 players. Your job, very talented players, and your job is to make them the best 5 players, the best team in the world. How do you do it? What training regime, like what schedule, what do you make these guys do? Do they read Plato? Do they, go for runs together? What do they do?
Well, actually, I had kind of an interesting insight into this particular problem, because I ended up staying at the NIP house when I was doing the FACEIT Masters and also DreamHack Winter. So it was on my mind a lot, actually, how weird it is being in a gaming house. I guess when I was 17, 18, it would have been like a dream for me to be able to wake up in a house where people play computer all day, and then they play computer until 3 in the morning, and then they just go and sleep till 12 o'clock, and then they wake up and repeat that for a long time. But I realized when I was there that it is a really hard job that a manager has, to be able to motivate the teams to keep going at a really high level, because they do play computer a lot, and eventually they do start to get a little bit, frustrated, and they need other activities. So actually, I think, even though you're joking about, Plato and team runs and stuff, I do actually think building in some really good team activities and making sure people have fun outside of the game is absolutely important. Exactly what I would do, I mean, that's really hard. That depends so much on the individuals. I guess that's why it must be a nightmare finding a really good team manager. I think we should have more respect for the people that are good at it. But then again, how much do we know about the people that are good at it? Not much.
Very true. It's could be an area for further investigation in the future.
It should be.
But that's it, Anders. Thank you so much for the interview. Do you have any closing words or thoughts you'd like to share with us?
Yes, actually, I'm slightly dodged a question, because you asked about the general state of the Counter-Strike scene, and this is something I'm going to put myself on the line a little bit here, because I probably shouldn't say this, but at the same time, I've been wanting to tell somebody for a long time. I really feel like Counter-Strike is in a great spot right now. As you were talking about, we got 16,000 people watching today, and it wasn't even like the best matchup of all time. So with the right setting, with the right tournament, and so on, I think we could build much bigger numbers for the game. But if you notice, the prize pools in the game right now do not exactly reflect those kind of numbers, and that's really starting to annoy me now. I feel like I always appreciate it whenever people want to show up and do new tournaments and new sponsors come into the game, but I feel like we are selling ourselves a little bit short here. So I hope for the future that the prize pools are going to increase for the game, because I think they should. I think we have enough of an audience to warrant that. So that's like my closing argument, or my closing statement. I hope in the future we'll see even bigger prize pools, even for online tournaments and such like that.
Well, good stuff. Thanks so much. And I wish you all the best for the future, especially with the DreamHack Invitational that's coming up. Yeah. So guys, remember to check out everything Anders is doing, and we'll see you next time.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Dan. I appreciate it. And also thanks to FACEIT for the interview, I suppose.